Welcome back, everyone. Marvel's been filming Loki Season 2 episodes. They just released a first look at a couple of big scenes they're filming in an episode with a bunch of Easter eggs for other current stuff that's happening in the MCU. So we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. I'll be doing episode videos for Season 2 just like I did for Loki Season 1. And obviously, big coincidence now, Thor Love and Thunder is hitting theaters as we speak. We're doing a giveaway for IMAX tickets for the movie. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and just post all your theories about what's going on during Loki Season 2 on the video. I'll talk about what's going on in all these brand new Loki Season 2 scenes that they're filming first. Then later in the video, I'll explain the connection to Thor Love and Thunder. Because obviously you talk about Loki, you also want to talk about Thor as well. And some of what's going on in the Loki scenes that they're filming for Season 2 is related to the Thor comics. But what's going on in this scene that they're filming right now is that our main Loki from Season 1 is with Mobius, and they're in 1970s London attending a movie premiere. And the movie that they're seeing is a huge Easter egg. Like the movie itself, and all the names, the actors, the posters for the movie in-universe are a bunch of Easter eggs. And there are a couple other funny Easter eggs for other movies inside the MCU. Like that's a big thing now in Marvel after Avengers Endgame. Like you see a bunch of fake movie posters and movies that they made, but they themselves are a bunch of Easter eggs and references for things that happen in the MCU. Really good example is that there's movie posters for one of Kingo's old movies that he starred in during the 1970s when he was pretending to be his great-great-grandfather, and they just literally referenced that during the Miss Marvel episodes in the past couple of weeks. Because her family's from Pakistan originally, so her parents and like their older circle of friends and extended family are huge fans of the person that they're calling Kingo Sr., who they in the MCU think is one of these ancestors of Kingo's, like his great-great-grandfather, his great-grandfather, grandfather, father, and then Kingo himself. Like they all believe the lie that it's all different members of his family, when really it's just Kingo pretending to be his different descendants along the years. We actually know which Kingo movie it is, so I'll explain those Easter eggs when we get to that part. But remember, everything that's happening in this scene is taking place after our Loki came back to the rebooted and changed timeline in the TVA, because the negative effects of her killing He Who Remains Kang at the end of time had already taken effect, so the timeline rebooted, but because the second Kang Multiverse War had started, it had played out a little bit differently. That's why we saw this different version of Kang being in charge of this version of the TVA. So it's like the timeline has changed a bunch, and this other Kang has just orchestrated the TVA the way that he wants to, as opposed to the way that He Who Remains wanted to orchestrate the TVA. But I think the idea with this new version of Kang is that he's supposed to be way worse, because that was what He Who Remains was talking about. Like, if you think that I'm bad, wait till you meet my variants, and cut to the end of the episode, we meet one of his variants. But that's why this version of Mobius and Hunter B-15 didn't know who our Loki was when he ran up to them talking about He Who Remains. Like, wait a minute, who are you? Why do you know all this stuff? Who's this He Who Remains person that you're talking about? So at the beginning of Season 2, they kind of have to go through those similar steps where they try to arrest him, and then he has to convince them that he's telling the truth. Like, no, there's this person orchestrating everything. Kang is lying to you. And the movie Zaniac is a huge Easter egg because Zaniac is an actual Marvel character from the comics. But in the Marvel universe, Zaniac was kind of like the essence or the spirit of a serial killer who would possess different people's bodies across time using supernatural means. The reason why they're using him on the Loki series is because he appeared for the first time in the Thor comics, and this is Loki, so obviously Thor connection, you get it. But the star of the movie, Brad Wolfe, is another Easter egg because in the Marvel Universe, in the comics, he was just a regular actor who signed on to play a fictional version of the Zaniac character in a movie inside the Marvel comics. But then when he was dressed like the Zaniac character, they started filming the movie doing his scenes. He had an accident and was mutated into the actual Zaniac character, possessed by a spirit. He turned into a killer, tried to kill a bunch of the crew members until Thor stopped him, and they threw him in an insane asylum. So if you remember the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 deleted scenes with the Wonder Man character played by Nathan Fillion, like he played a version of that character in the universe, but he was an actor pretending to be these different characters. So they're kind of doing the same thing. It's the same energy with this Zaniac movie. But basically during Loki Season 2, it seems like they're doing a version of that Zaniac origin story, except when the actor gets turned into the real Zaniac going crazy trying to kill a bunch of people, it's Loki who stops them from killing everyone instead of Thor. And if you zoom and enhance on the movie poster credits here for all the other actors' names, the production crew members' names, the production company is listed as a Goodman Production. That's a huge Easter egg for the origin of the Marvel comic book company itself. Originally, the company was owned by Saul Goodman, who owned Timely Comics. That was the original name of Marvel Comics. He's the one who hired a young Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, all those classic era Marvel creatives that you know. Then later, the company changed its name a couple times, eventually changing it to Marvel Comics. They've used the Saul Goodman Marvel Comics Productions Easter egg a couple times in the Marvel Universe. They used it during Moon Knight, too. When they're revealing the true origin of the Stephen Grant persona, that he was a character in a fictional movie called Tomb Busters, the production company of that movie on the poster was listed as Timely Atlas Productions. That was another Easter egg for Saul Goodman's Timely Comics, but what happened is it started out as Timely Comics, then in the 1950s they changed their name to Atlas Comics, then after that they changed their name to Marvel Comics. The next Easter egg is that movie that Kingo made in the 1970s, and a lot of you will probably remember this movie from the Eternals movie. Like, they reference it in a couple different Marvel movies. If you remember Kingo's backstory, he was with Sprite until he left her in Macedonia and went to India to become a Bollywood movie star. The first real big movie that he starred in later in the timeline was Son of Siraj, and that is the poster that you're seeing on this wall here. And at the time, he was pretending to be his great-great-grandfather. And what would happen is that he would just disappear after a little while and resurface as that person's son, and then after a certain amount of time had passed by, he'd do the same thing again and again until eventually you get the Kingo that you see today. He joked that his assistant Karun came along and thought that he was a vampire when he started to notice that he would not age.
Actually, when we first met, he thought I was a vampire, and he tried to stake me through the heart.
I have apologized so many times.
Not quite enough times, very close though, I'll let you know.
We'll see actual vampires in the MCU during the Blade movie next year or the year after that, depending on when they finish filming it. There are a couple other Easter eggs for these other movie posters too, but some of these are posters from movies that were released in real life. So I think the events of this episode, this movie release that they're going to, this theater, is taking place during the year 1974 in the MCU, because all these movies are from posters from movies that were released in 1974. Like, this is the real poster for a movie called Airport 1975. This is a poster for a movie called Earthquake. This is a poster for the real-life Love Bug sequel called Herbie Rides Again, which was released by Disney in 1974. So I think that confirms that Kingo's Son of Suresh movie that his great-great-grandfather supposedly made, even though it was real Kingo, was also released in 1974. The next big Easter egg is on another poster for a movie called Phone Ranger, who, yes, as ridiculous as that sounds, is another actual Marvel character from the comics. In the comics, Phone Ranger was a character named A.G. Bell, like Bell Phone Systems. That was an actual phone company. He started out as a telephone repairman who was sent to fix a phone that, unknown to anyone, was actually acting as a prison for a small race of aliens known as the Celtas. A.G. Bell wound up using the technology that the alien race left in the phone, replicating it, and used it to give himself the power to tap into any communications technology, using that power to become a superhero fighting crime. But like, his actual costume kind of looks like a phone person. The star of that movie, though, is Charles Theobald. The only reference and connection I could think to Marvel Comics is a Brigadier Theobald Inky Blot in the comics, who was a supporting character from Excalibur who has ties to FI6. But if you look here, the production company for this Phone Ranger movie is also Goodman Productions. But because Thor Love and Thunder is coming out this week, a lot of you asking, is Loki in Thor Love and Thunder, or why is he not in Thor Love and Thunder? Because Taika Waititi, even Chris Hemsworth, even Tom Hiddleston have said that Loki is not supposed to be in the movie. Thor Love and Thunder isn't meant to be a multiverse movie in the way that Doctor Strange 2 was, or the way that Loki Season 1 or even Loki Season 2 is, or even Ant-Man 3. It's just meant to take place in the main MCU universe and is more about the different pantheons of gods in the MCU. So even though it's like a really big story in scope, it's a little more self-contained in that you don't get into many alternate universes during the movie, like just this one particular MCU universe. And they just said that they'd played out a lot of that original Loki and Thor story, like the brotherly story, so maybe we'll see them together in the future. But the funny thing recently is that Taika Waititi actually gave his pitch for Thor 5 for like the next movie in the Thor franchise, and it did involve a version of Tom Hiddleston.
And then that'll be the next Thor film for me. Because the challenge for me is then to make something, to make them love it, you know. Thor, okay, Thor and a buddy on a road trip to Vegas, fully clothed, in winter. At Christmas! Christmas. Okay, I've got it. Thor, Christmas. Two Christmas, Chris Pratt and Thor. Okay, oh my God. Guys, take this down. Star-Lord, Thor, road trip movie, Christmas. They've got to get to someone's house for Christmas.
So his joke idea for Thor 5 there is a Christmas road trip movie with Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth, Star-Lord and Thor on a road trip to Tom's house, and he's talking about Tom Hiddleston as in Loki's house. They are actually doing a Christmas special this year, but it's a Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. They're just calling it the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. It's meant to be a live-action prequel to Guardians of the Galaxy 3 to explain what happens with the Guardians after they leave in Thor Love and Thunder, but before the events of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 pick up. But if you have any big questions about Loki Season 2 or you spotted any Easter eggs in these brand new scenes that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. My Thor Love and Thunder review video will post tomorrow, so be sure to enable alerts so you don't miss that. And all my full post-credit scene videos, Easter eggs, breakdown of the entire movie will start posting later this week after the movie actually comes out. Everyone click here for my brand new Black Panther 2 Namor first look and first look at some of the other really big characters during the movie and what's going on. And click here for my new Thor Love and Thunder video. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.